on Route 111 in Hudson, New Hampshire, where some kind of high-speed pursuit is happening. We started following the situation around Lancaster, Mass, and at times there have been reports of the SUV and that truck there going up to 90 miles an hour or so. At one point, the truck hit a pole or a tree and just kept going. We're not sure what started this or why this guy is eluding police here. We are still working on getting more details on exactly what's going on. We're going to stay on this very closely throughout this newscast, follow this chase, and bring you any new information as it comes into our newsroom.
I want to go back to that chase we've been telling you about for the last few minutes here now. This began in Holden, Mass, and now you can see the speeds have accelerated. They're going through a small town. This is in the area of Route 111 in Hudson, New Hampshire. You can see law enforcement pursuing this pickup truck. And last time we checked in on this, about 3 minutes ago, they were going through a congested area. It looked like a downtown area at a much slower rate of speed. They have started to accelerate now as the state trooper, it would appear here, is following closely behind and appears to be in a residential neighborhood here as well. So now we have the truck turning left onto another side street, and this is all from Skyfox as we take a look.
And we know at one point that truck was going about 90 miles per hour and was swerving and hit a pole or some sort of a tree, but that didn't stop the driver. They kept on going. We are working our sources right now to try and figure out why police are pursuing the driver of truck and what may have started all this, but this has been going on for quite some time, Ak.
Yeah, and you can see that law enforcement typically holds back. They aren't looking as if they want to try and make some type of, at least get close enough to make contact with them, but now they're slowed down again with the speeds, and you have to wonder as they go through this grid of streets here whether or not there may be other vehicles following along and maybe coming in at a different intersection and maybe try to cordon them off here. But right now they are maintaining a very close pursuit. They're not holding back at all. And again, in a reseential area like this, there's not much time to move here. And now he's slowing down almost to a complete stop.
Yeah, it looks like this may be a dead end here in a residential neighborhood. We're going to stay on top of this and see if he gets out of the car. Let's watch what happens here.
Well, oftentimes it's best to pull off of these types of shots because you're not aware of what's going on inside the vehicle at this point. Law enforcement does have him stopped, it appears right now. State troopers up in New Hampshire. Again, this is in the area of 111 in Hudson, New Hampshire. This was a chase that started in Holden, Mass, continued on streets, and you can see guns drawn and the suspect moving out of that vehicle right now. Plenty of law enforcement and also dogs as well. And now they're incorporating the arrest right here. Again, this was a chase that began about in the area about 30 minutes ago, we understand. Holden, Massachusetts makes it all the way up to Hudson, New Hampshire, Route 111, and then they got off at that point. Law enforcement closed in, got into a residential neighborhood, but speeds at one point up over 90 miles per hour.
And the driver, we don't know if it's a man or a woman, but went to a dead end here and just stopped and surrendered and gave up.
Let's see, they have the K-9 unit on there as well.
And it looks like the person is in handcuffs.
And it appears he has been arrested at this point.
Again, we are still working to find out what started all of this and why the driver was running from police. Again, he had hit something, but just kept going, didn't seem to stop him. And it appears that we had several undercover officers who were following in pursuit of this. Their cars were not marked, but now we see a handful of them surrounding this suspect here.
Well, and they had time to get into place because they had been moving along on this pursuit for quite some time, and other jurisdictions obviously got involved as well, and now law enforcement has got their man, as they say, here on the ground. We believe this to be a male individual, judging from the size from here, looking at this right now, but again, not sure the exact details of why this pursuit started in the first place. Going to work our sources here, and we'll get you some information just as soon as it comes into our newsroom. We'll take a break, be back with more in a moment. Police eventually arrested that suspect without incident right here. No word on who the suspect is or why he was running. As far as we can tell, no one was hurt.
Let's get you right to that video if you haven't seen it. At 5:06, we got our first look at this police chase live here on air, and you see the driver spin out of control for a brief moment after being bumped by police in Nashua, New Hampshire. At this point, the chase, which started in Holden, Massachusetts, had been going on for about 40 minutes. We'll get back to the video in a second, but let's put this in perspective for you with this map we put together. Holden is roughly 60 miles away from Nashua, New Hampshire. During this pursuit, the car crossed state lines several times.
Being affected here, you don't know what's going on at that point. What, as a police officer, are you doing when you approach that vehicle once it has come to a stop?
You obviously go to your training and your tactics. You had plenty of officers. You had canines there. You had officers with firearms drawn. I'm sure there were tasers on scene. It appeared the individual surrendering. If that's the case, you put handcuffs on him and you take him into custody. Now, something caused those officers to throw several strikes. Was that a last-minute clinch by the suspect to grab a weapon? If that's the case, that's great. Let's hear that. But absent that, there was no reason for the force to utilize there. That appeared to be not proportional to the resistance they were getting. It appeared he was surrendering. He was on the ground. He was outnumbered. And as I watched it, I can tell you I was a little disappointed. I'm going to wait for an investigation, and there will be investigation into this as to exactly what happened. But clearly, might have been.
A car chase crossed state lines. The trooper was seen on Sky Fox video throwing punches at a suspect who surrendered. Fox 25's Bob Ward tells us the trooper is suspended with pay now, but his ultimate punishment, that has yet to be decided.
It is Sky Fox video that's been seen all across the country, and it's video that is now forcing the suspension of a Massachusetts state trooper seen throwing punches at a car chase suspect after the suspect surrendered and was down on the ground. 50-year-old Richard Simone of Worcester led police on an hour-long chase from Holden to Nashua, New Hampshire Wednesday. After the chase, Simone is seen on video with his hands up as he goes to the ground to give himself up, and that's when the punches from police were thrown. This Sky Fox video was seen live on Fox 25 News. On Thursday, New Hampshire State Police identified one of its own troopers in the video and ordered him suspended without pay and forced him to give up his gun, badge, and cruiser. At Framingham State Police headquarters, the Mass State Police trooper identified throwing punches on the video was ordered to appear before a duty status hearing. That trooper appeared with the union representative before a three-person panel, which suspended the trooper with pay pending a full internal investigation. The union rep did not speak to us, nor did Mass State Police Colonel Richard McEwen, who we briefly saw at headquarters just before the hearing began. The suspended Massachusetts state trooper is 32 years old. He was assigned to the Andover barracks, and he has been a member of the Massachusetts State Police since 2011. There's no word on how long this investigation is going to take.
News to bring to you coming out of Northeast Harris County. This is a guy on the run. You were looking at live pictures. He just crashed his car, and now he is in a foot chase with police. This is after a high-speed chase through the Northeast Harris County area. Live pictures here, and there is the officer just about rear-ending him there. His hands are up. He's given up. He knows it's time, and there he goes to the ground with police officers on his back, guns drawn. And this thing has come to a quick end, a very quick end.
Andy Bass is in Sky HD now. Andy, what can you tell us? You've been following this for a while.
Yeah, we have, guys, and yeah, as you guys just mentioned, he just cracked up into another side street car that was coming northbound on that street. Not too sure exactly what happened there. Then he took off running eastbound towards the Beltway, and obviously you just saw the aftermath of it. We were, covering him for like the last 5 minutes in the northeast quadrant of Beltway 8 and I-10, and that's basically where we caught up with him. Not too sure exactly what he was running for, but they've been trying to track this guy for at least the last 30 minutes. They did have a tracker in that vehicle that he did crack up in. That silver pickup truck did have a tracker in it. They tracked him to a house, and then when we arrived on scene, that's when he took off running through this subdivision here. I'll give you a little bit of perspective. We're just east of Beltway 8 and just north of I-10. And I'm actually being asked to move to go back to the impact of there, so I'm going to peel off this and just go back to the impact of the crash of where it happened. And I'm just going to go back a little bit. And there's the crack. There's the car at the bottom of your screen. That's the one that he hit. And there's the pickup truck. And I believe that the passenger was thrown from that vehicle. I'm going to just keep a wide look because I'm not too sure exactly what is happening down there. But you can see one person is on the ground, and we got. They pulled him out of there, according to Mike, my pilot. They pulled him out of that vehicle.
Okay. Yeah.
And you could see pretty much all the police activity down there as well. That Lincoln Continental, that white Lincoln Continental at the top of your screen, was the other vehicle that was involved in this accident scene. He was traveling, the pickup truck was traveling eastbound along that little side street. The Continental was traveling northbound along the main street. Still trying to get those streets paired out for you guys. But yeah, I believe the passenger was ejected from that vehicle while officers were in pursuit for him. And it was a massive crash, I can tell you, from Sky Eye.
Yeah, wow, we missed that crash, but I know you were up there in Sky Eye. I know you were looking at it at the time. That crash, of course, he couldn't use the vehicle anymore. Let's hope that passenger of that vehicle, or that he was in the other vehicle that was hit, right? He wasn't a passenger. He was the person driving?
It was no. I believe the person that's driving was the one that took off. I believe the passenger of the pickup truck was thrown from there. As far as I know, it was very hard. It happened really quickly. He might have been dragged out of there by the officers. Not too sure.
Okay. Okay. All right. So the actual driver, the suspect, of course, that was the one who was running down the street, and we saw that. We saw him being captured and now handcuffs on and in the back of a squad car. But what a chase this was! I mean, overall they were tracking him, but it didn't last actually the chase that long, right?
No, not. I mean, they had another car, believe it or not, at I-10 in the belt, and they pulled the driver out of that one, but it was the wrong driver. The plate did not match. Then they got the tracker of this vehicle, of this pickup truck, and they tracked him to the northeast coordinate, or basically of I-10 and Beltway 8 East. And that's when they picked him up in this neighborhood, and then they saw him running, and that's when we joined the chase, Art. And when we got on it, obviously he was just going through this neighborhood right here below us. He was, going pretty fast. I'd say anywhere between 40 to 50 miles an hour. And then all of a sudden, when he was heading eastbound on this little side street, and that Continental was heading northbound on the main street, and that's when basically the crash happened. I did see the driver take off on there. He ran about 4 blocks east on that little side street, and then you saw the rest of it.
And just a horrific crash, and we will have a video of some of that chase coming up in just a few minutes. Andy Bass is over that. In fact, here's that video there. This is just moments before that terrible crash.
Whoa.
As that person T-boned that suspect, then running off down one of the side streets. And after that crash, he running from that pickup truck, and you will be able to see Houston police, or just police in general, and you see the little dog there running behind him first, and then you'll see a police car coming up on another side street, coming back almost running into that suspect, stopping just before then. I believe he even lost his shoe there. He held his hands up, and then he was subdued and arrested by police. Boy, and your heart certainly goes out to the driver of the other vehicle involved in this, the driver, the passenger. This is just horrific.
Yeah, just awful to see this type of thing take place. And you're looking again at the crash site. That, again, we're going to look at the crash actually when it happened. This is the pickup truck that's running, and that was the hit. And then we're breaking away from that because people were thrown from the vehicle as a result of that crash. And there's the suspect on the run. This is the one police were chasing in that pickup truck. And watch there's the little white dog chasing him. And then you have the officer in the squad car just really trying to scare him. And that's the protocol for this type of thing. You run up to him like that, and you kind of scare the guy, and he kind of gives up and realizes, you know what? It's done. I'm not going to be able to outrun these guys. There he goes to the ground. He's guns drawn, of course, immediately cuffed. He's now placed behind a vehicle in the squad car. But now look at the other officer. He's taking guard here with his gun drawn and sort of walking around the area, making sure that nobody else gets involved in this. But we wonder what he's running for.
Yeah.
Clearly, police were after him for a certain reason, and we're going to find out much more about that this afternoon, and then bringing it to you on Eyewitness News 4, 5, and 6.
And we want to go back to Andy Bass. Andy, you know, Art mentioned something that we all are wondering right now. We don't know at this point, right, Andy, why this suspect was running from police in the first place.
No, not at all. That detail's still trying to be sorted out in the newsroom, guys, but I do have some more information. We're at the corner. The intersection that they cracked up is at Nancy Rose and Gainesville, and the suspect was running eastbound on Gainesville, and that's when the HPD officers got him. So in the neighborhood around Beltway 8 and I-10, Nancy Rose and Gainesville is where this cracked up. But the news desk is still trying to answer your question. The news desk is still trying to figure out exactly why this guy was running, but they did tag him, and that's when they located him inside this development, inside this neighborhood, and obviously he knew he was going to get arrested.
Now Andy, I want to explain to some folks here of when we show the crash, we're showing the impact, but we're not showing the continuation of that crash. And there are reasons for that. You and Sky Eye, you were able to see, now there's a reason here you're only going to see a portion of that crash, at least the impact. From that crash, after that, the passenger in the other vehicle that was hit, he was thrown or she was thrown from that vehicle. Is that correct?
I believe so, Art. I mean, it happened so quickly, and obviously once the suspect started to run down eastbound Gainesville,
look at that. That
that's
is
when
a hard hit, and you see that. And when we froze that video there, and we're looking at that video, Andy, and we've looked at it a couple times, but on impact, wow, that is a hard hit.
Terrible.
Yeah, you got to believe that they were traveling at least, you know, the pickup truck was traveling at least 50 miles an hour. The other one probably doing 30, 25 miles an hour inside the neighborhood. All right, and yeah, that crash, I mean, immediately the heart just sank for the person in the Continental. And, you know, don't know if that suspect in the passenger vehicle of the pickup truck was pulled out by HPD or if he was thrown from there. You know, I was still trying to figure that one out. Like I said, playing it back in my mind over the last 5 minutes, it just happened so quickly.
Yeah, it was.
You know, and Andy, you and I and Art, we've seen so many of these chases that end this way, and it's certainly your heart just goes out to the person involved, the person who has no idea what's happening. They had no idea that a chase was going on, and a high-speed chase on these small streets in a neighborhood. Just your heart goes out to that person.
Yeah, it certainly does.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
All right,
covering cases.
Yeah, Andy, my apologies for interrupting. We're going to go ahead and wrap it up here, but we will have continuing coverage on this. We're streaming this on abc13.com. Just log it on there. You can watch the video there. We will have replays, of course, of that impact of that crash, and then the suspect on the run trying to create a foot chase, but eventually caught. And there again, the crash scene. We're going to have much more on Eyewitness News at 4, 5, and 6, and online, abc13.com. Thanks for joining us.
The names of the suspects have not been released, neither is the name of that innocent driver. All three, again, non-life-threatening injuries. The two suspects will be charged with evading arrest and aggravated robbery. In Cloverleaf, Deborah Wrigley, 13 Eyewitness News.